Let's talk about how a meeting of the minds may help you supersize your business. These three little guys, they were singing different songs or not singing from the same page, the same sheet of music. Would their songs and their Christmas carols, I don't know if they're Christmas carols or snowmen, we had a snow day yesterday, would their song be as sweet? No, they need to have a meeting of the minds or an agreement on what song to sing. Just like in business, meeting of the minds, this is an idiom or an expression. It's an old one. It's from the 1800s for sure. It was written up in the Harvard Business Review by Oliver Wendell Holmes, and he argued that it's really not possible to have an actual meeting of the minds. And that's because we're all unique, separate, unique individual beings, and for our minds to meet and have complete agreement would be impossible. Now, what meeting of the minds means from a legal standpoint, this comes from contract law and from contracts. In order to have a valid contract, we have to have concurrence or agreement or meeting of the minds ad item, it's called, and intention. The intention has to be that we form an agreement and that we agree on the contents of that contract in order for the contract to be valid. Now, all of our businesses, I don't know of very many businesses that are contact free. There might be one. If there is, if yours is, hit me up and share that, hey, I don't use contracts for anything. But if you've ever gotten a bank loan, if you've ever gotten a car loan, if you've ever gotten any type of loan from an institution, you've been involved in a contract. If you've ever bought or sold a house, if you've ever been involved in certain industries, if you've ever had a job where you had an employment contract, there's all sorts of contracts that we use in our daily operations and our businesses. I've been in a lot of industries that are very litigious, and so everything is contracts, everything is written down. If you've ever been involved in a certain type of business structure or business entity beyond being a sole proprietorship, you have been involved and had hopefully written agreements and documents. I could tell you horror stories about a partnership that my ex-husband and I were involved in that we did not get in writing. Huge lessons learned there. So agreements, terms, and conditions are written down, and it requires a meeting in the minds, meaning we agreed about these terms and conditions, we discussed them, we understand them, both sides understand them. I think of negotiations, union contracts and negotiations. I did a lot of that in corporate America. I don't know why in quality I was involved in those negotiations, but I ended up being involved in those negotiations a lot throughout my corporate career, as well as negotiating with vendors, negotiating with suppliers, negotiating with distributors and distribution contracts, negotiating with, all kinds of services and products and services. So contracts, we all deal with them in our business lives, and we need to understand that there has to be a meeting of the minds. One of the best contracts or meeting of the minds experiments I personally got to go through was with my ex-husband when we were going through our divorce. My brother-in-law was our attorney, but the only way he would do it, since he doesn't like divorce law and divorces, was if we sat down and we agreed on everything in advance, and then he just did the legalese and wrote it all up so that it made sense. But we had to go through and decide, what was going to happen with the kids, what was going to happen with our different businesses, what was going to happen with the house and the property and all of the toys and all the vehicles and all the things that we'd accumulated in our 25 plus years together. We needed to figure all that out. And we did. There wasn't too much argument about that, but we figured it all out and we agreed on it. And there was a meeting of the minds, probably one of the few times we had a meeting of the minds in our life and our relationship. And we came to an agreement. And I think probably one of the fastest legal times I've ever been in court was our divorce. I think it was less than 15 minutes. Boom, in, out, done. Well, not married anymore. So now I'm single again. So agreements and contracts. How else could meeting of the minds be important in growing and building and supersize our business? Well, how about all of the communication that we do inside and outside of our organization with people we serve, with vendors, with our employees, with each other, understanding one another. That leads to the topic of expectations. Are your expectations for yourself and other people clearly understood in your organization? Does each job, each role, each person know how they are contributing to the overall vision and purpose and daily activities and projects of your business. As you're growing and building and supersizing, that becomes even more and more important because there's so much change that leads up to accomplishing and creating what it is that you want to create. And you have to communicate that to people in a way that they understand. You're going to talk about their identity. You're going to talk about and have a common language. If you've ever been in every industry, if you've been in a bunch of different industries, you see this more, and you recognize it more. Every industry, every business, a lot of brands, a lot of companies have their own insider language and verbiage. They have their own way of describing things. They have slang and words that other people outside of their club, their group, might not understand. But once you're in the club, in the group, in the organization, you quickly learn part of the culture, and culture is another way that a meeting of the minds is important, because meeting of the minds is where culture is created. Whether we do it intentionally or it just happens ad hoc is actually entirely up to us. We can help to steer the culture by our actions, by setting the example, etc., and through purposefully meeting people and meeting their minds and understanding where they are and what's important to them, building on people's strengths, etc. So curious, what's your experience with this particular idiom or expression, meeting of the minds? I don't know that I've ever said, oh, let's have a meeting of the minds. I guarantee I've never said, let's have a meeting of the minds. But I've definitely understood and participated in lots of activities that's the intent, that's the purpose, is to come together and agree and have a mutual understanding and mutual agreement on what's going to happen. All right, have an awesome day. I will be with you tomorrow with another emotion-related idiom or expression. What does it mean? Where does it come from? And how might you use it to grow and supersize your business? Any questions? Ask me. Otherwise, I'll be with you tomorrow. Bye.